we were talking about Eric July and the Rippaverse, and there was a commenter on the Geeks and Gamers website who basically took him to task and said he's a terrible businessman, made $3.7 million, but that's neither here nor there, and he's a really bad entrepreneur. And I got some comments on the video, so I thought I would take a look at them. So I would say most are kind of in agreement. Eric has no experience making comments, says Bion Geek. We all have to start somewhere. If needing prior experience is the requirement to write your first comic, then how on earth do we have writers to begin with? And that's pretty much where I'm at, right? Now, here's the deal. Anyone who wants to criticize Rippaverse for really anything, I think that's fair. I don't really have any serious objection except to the woke wackos who want to deplatform him, who want to lie and defame. Like, if you want to criticize someone, that's fair enough. But if you're going to lie about someone and attempt to destroy them, try and get them involved in lawsuits and shit like that, well, that's wacko lunatic shit. And I got no time for that. So don't misunderstand. Anyone that has fair critiques of Eric July, I have no issue with. So. Tanada1969 said, I'm tired of all the jealous people out there ragging on Eric for doing what he's doing. If these haters can outperform Eric, then show your work and show the numbers. Name me 3 companies that Eric July is suppressing and blocking in the indie scene, and show me how he is succeeding in doing so. And I fairly agree with that. There's nothing he's doing that's stopping anyone. So let me get to... Darth Merlin, though, had a pretty interesting point. So here's Darth Merlin. Serious question. What was Eric's business plan? Literally anyone with $200,000 and millions of viewers could do what Eric did. Sure, he came out of the gate pretty strong, but he's had steadily diminishing returns ever since, despite hiring comic giants like Chuck Dixon and Mike Baron. Let me just pause there. Let me just take the first question, right? Serious question, and I will take it in that spirit. Serious question. Okay, fair enough. What was Eric's business plan? I don't know. I don't know what his business plan was. I don't know if he made one. I would say it's a good idea to have a business plan. I would say that in the same way, it's good to have an outline. If you're going to write something, if you're going to write a novel, it's good to have an outline. Here's the problem. A lot of people spend their whole life planning and they don't spend a lot of time doing. So what was his business plan? I mean, just as an evaluating, it seemed to me his business plan was to build his own website, write his own book, hire good artists to draw it, release it in a campaign that was with full transparency to his audience, and do it all on his own. And he seems to have executed that. So resuming with the quote, though, Darth Merlin says, sure, he came out of the gate pretty strong, but he's had steadily diminishing returns ever since, despite hiring comic giants like Chuck Dixon and Mike Baron. Everyone in our space was fully behind Eric when he promoted the first ISOM, but his support has lessened over time due to him being, quote, a thin-skinned jerk who refuses to take any criticism, gets into legal trouble because he doesn't know how to use Google, keeps an enemies list, and clearly does not know or care about comics, let alone good ones. So this is where there's a lot to unpack there. I absolutely agree that the success of the first campaign was all goodwill, that was all belief, right? And by the way, that's legitimate. That is absolutely legitimate. Everyone that invested in Eric, including me, were basically saying, we've never read your work. We don't know what the book is going to be like, but this is an act of faith. We're supporting you because, the mission of Rippaverse is something sorely needed in our space. So yes, the first campaign was built on that. His second campaign still exceeded the millions in sales. Now on to your next point. But his support has lessened over time due to him being a thin-skinned jerk. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that Eric is a counterpuncher. I think he has endured a hell of a lot of withering, just awful attempts at defamation. And those are haters. Those are bad faith actors. They just hate his success. They're jealous. They're miserable, resentful, bitter people. I do not blame him for striking back. Eric July he's an alpha male. Okay. He's an alpha male. He's not going to allow someone to disrespect and threaten his business without a reply. He just isn't. He's entitled to that. Now, is it what you or I would do? Maybe, maybe not. But that's his business. And I don't consider that being a jerk when he has jerks attacking him. I think that we have been way too polite. We have been way too polite to woke, wacko lunatics. We have allowed them, because we are nice, civilized people, to get away with, in culturally speaking, murder. We have allowed them to get away with cultural murder, okay? Eric July ain't gonna stand for that. And neither should we. And we're not, by the way. We have had it. We have had it with these wackos, that just want to deplatform everyone. We've had it with them. And so is he. And I love it. And by the way, it's great entertainment. So now this I very strongly, I feel this is a very unfair point that you're making here, Darth Melvin. You say he gets into legal trouble because he doesn't know how to use Google. I assume you're referring to the name rights issues over the word ISOM, which is also an acronym that refers to a church community. He did not get into legal trouble. What happened was a crazy wacko went and tried to tattle on him to a church community that happened to have a acronym that was spelled ISOM and say, oh, you should sue this guy, and created a problem where none existed. Eric July, in frankly a very old-fashioned but very brilliant way, just acted like a man and spoke to the guy man to man, and they worked it out. And you can see his video on his channel talking about it. There's no naming issue. The name of the character is after the name of Eric July's ancestor, who was named ISOM. And there's a very important reason why Eric chose that name. It's the name of a fictional character. There's no trademark conflict with the name of the church. And so he's resolved that out of court. So he did not get into legal trouble. He was the target of an attempted deplatforming campaign. So I don't agree with that, at all. As far as he keeps an enemies list, well, so do I, sir. So do I. I have an enemies list. You know who my enemies are? Totalitarians. They're my enemies. They're yours too, whether you believe it or not. So my enemies are Sweet Baby Inc. They're my enemy. The media, they are our enemies. They are our enemies. They're liars. They're proponents of propaganda. They are collaborators with state tyranny. So they're my enemies. And you should know who your enemies are. Because whether you do or don't, they know who you are. They know who you are. The woke totalitarians, they are our enemies. Because they will, without a second's hesitation, they will have you censored, banned, deplatformed, docked. They will ruin. This legal thing was an attempt to ruin Eric's life. It was an attempt to destroy his business. You're damn right he has an enemies list. They'd be on my enemies list too. So I don't see that as a negative thing. I don't. I think the problem is we haven't had an enemies list, and we've allowed these enemies to gather. Now, the difference is, and I'm not speaking for Eric here, only for myself, the difference is my enemies list this is a self-defense enemies list. This is not, I went out looking for enemies. This is people who attacked us. People who attacked our stories, attacked our culture, who attack anyone who dissents from their sick worldview. So it's a self-defense enemies list. And the minute that self-defense is no longer necessary, this is over. I don't want to have enemies. I don't want to have enemies. I don't choose to have enemies. But I will not bend the knee to wackos. So I will act in self-defense, as should we all. So that's the way I see it. That's my personal belief about what he's doing. So that's just my thoughts on that. You say, I disagree with your premise that sales should be the only metric. If that's the case, just sell merch. The primary goal should be to create a great comic. Well, I agree that the goal should be to create a great comic, and I believe that is his goal. To present an alternative to the dreck we are constantly subjected to by the big two. I agree, and I think that is his goal. That was what Eric was promising us, and in my opinion, as someone who read ISOM, he failed. And by the way, that's totally fair. If your opinion is he failed, I have no issue with that. That is your opinion, but I agree to disagree, because I disagree personally. I think ISOM is pretty good, but I do think he's got growth to do as a writer, and I'm very honest about that. So You said you disagree with my premise that sales should be the only metric. I don't know that I'm saying sales should be the only metric. I'm saying that if you're going to say that Ericjuly is a terrible businessman after he got an 18 times return on his investment, what you are doing is you are ignoring or glossing over empirical data. In the business world, you are the farthest thing from a failure if you're getting an 18 times return. I think it's very difficult to be both a businessman and an artist. That's not an easy tightrope to walk. Very few creatives actually can do it. All I'm saying is he seems to be, in my view, pretty good at both, and that's a pretty tough tightrope to walk. He has got a lot of spinning plates, and I truly admire how well he's managed them. Says, thanks, Garrett. I appreciate the analysis. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome, bud. It's look, I thought it was a fair question. I'm like, I'll cover that on the Captain's Cast. A round of applause for Darth Merlin. I appreciate the counterpoint. So there you go. Salute to you, sir. Gentleman's disagreement, but a gentleman's nonetheless. Darth Melvin says, have you seen him debate Dick Masterson? Dick provided exhaustive notes on ISOM, and Eric refused to look at them because he said they were bad faith. I mean, I haven't seen that. Maybe I'll look that up and just see what I think about it. I mean, it's a fine line because in my view, no creative is obligated to read someone's pages of notes about what they did wrong. Now, but there is such a thing as hubris. There is such a thing as if you never listen to criticism, well, that's bad. That's not good because you got to get out of your own head about it. So I don't know. I guess my attitude is I think you kind of just have to walk a mile in someone's shoes before you understand how much, like, Eric has dealt with a landslide of hate. He has dealt with viciousness on a level that's truly disgusting, like truly despicable from these wackos. And dude, you know, we're all human. You know, we're all human. That's not easy to endure. There's people that went after his wife. I mean, that, and the way he's handled that has been pretty good. You know, he's exhibited a lot of strength. And so that's up to Eric. You know, if he truly is deaf to all criticism, I hope that, well, then that's the thing he's got to overcome. That's a form of resistance, right? Artists always face resistance. That's a form of resistance. And that's for him to battle. That's for him to overcome. I am rooting for him. If that is the case, to overcome that, I hope he does. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't need him to change for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he doesn't want to hear something that I think he should hear, oh, well, that's his choice. And it's not up to me to police that with him. It's not up to me to make him listen. It's not up to me. He doesn't owe me anything. That's just the way I look at it. So I have been sitting in writers groups where people have critiqued my work. And I mean, 99% of all of it was good faith. Even when I disagreed, I felt like I appreciated the feedback. But you know, there have been a couple of times where someone came at me in a way where I was like, that's bad faith, you know, frack off. I think every artist has a right to that. That's just my feeling. And I'm not saying you should be deaf to criticism, but you do have a right to say, hey, this is my boundary. I'm not open to any more feedback. Every human has that right. You know, people will always try and give you advice on things. You have a right to say, you know what? Maybe it's not in my best interest, but I'm not open to advice right now. That's fair. I have no issue with that. So that's all. But I appreciate the thoughts, Darth Melvin, and a fun debate. A fun debate indeed. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you loved this clip. Please like and subscribe. And did you know you can join us live every Sunday on the Captain's Cast live show? That's at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday. You can join me and the rest of the crew in the live chat as we set sail for more amazing adventures in entertainment, film, video games, etc. And until next time, my dear sailors and starnauts, this is Captain Garrett saying I will see you out there.